What we are learning about today is a system called EVVIE. It's EVVIE, EVVIE. It is the electronic visit verification system that we are going to use for personal choices. It is what will collect your workers' clock in and clock out information. It is what workers and employers will use to attest claims or acknowledge that they're accurate, that the information is correct. So we are learning about EVVIE today. However, we know that there's going to be a learning curve for all of us in this new system. So until April 4th, we will pay workers, or Morning Sun will pay workers off of paper timesheets. However, you must use the EVV system as well. Paper until April 4th will be the source of truth, but you must still use the EVV system or EVVIE to the best of your ability, because this is what we're going to consider a training time, and that will allow us to see who can use the system, what kinks are in the system, and who needs more training. Because after April 4th, your worker will only get paid based off of information in EVVIE. Paper timesheets will no longer be used. So we have to get everybody up and running by April 4th. One other big announcement about this system as we get started that's different from what you're used to is that in EVVIE, workers and employers have the ability to make changes to clock in and out time. Now, I'm letting you know this because we're going to probably go over it in training. But I also want you to know that making changes in EVVIE is not in compliance with Medicaid guidelines, which means that after April 4th, if we notice that the worker or the employer is making numerous amounts of changes in EVVIE, you risk being made to come off the program. The worker needs to learn to clock in and out. Now, we know there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be times the worker forgets to clock out and so forth. We're not saying you can't ever make a change, but it is monitored. And if it gets excessive, you risk coming off the program. So you really need to practice between now and April 4th, learning how to use this system correctly. So just keep in mind, changes are only to be used in special circumstances. If there's a natural disaster, a bad storm, you lose electricity, can't access the internet, so forth, you will be able to go in and adjust whatever claims you need to, but that will be monitored. All right, I think those were all of the announcements I wanted to make before we got started. So I was going to turn this over to Annkissam. I hope I'm saying that correctly. They're the company that manages the EVVIE system. So if somebody from Annkissam wants to share their screen and take over at this time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie. And hey, everyone. My name is Abe. I am a product manager for the EVVIE system. And I will begin to share my screen right now. Make sure I'm doing it correctly.
Welcome to training for EVV. Thank you so much for attending today. We're going to learn about EVV and how timekeeping will be done for consumers and their workers in Alabama's self-directed programs. We have a lot to cover, and we want to show you as much of the system as we can while allowing time for follow-up questions. Today we'll learn about how to set up a user with an FMS1 account, how workers will use the EVVIE mobile app, how users log into the EVVIE portal, how users view and approve shifts in the EVVIE portal, how users deny and adjust shifts in the EVVIE portal, how users create manual shifts in the EVVIE portal, the administrative features of the EVVIE portal, how to use the IVR system, and how to use the EVVIE IVR portal. We'll show you how to do one part, then pause for questions, and then we'll move on to show you how to do the next part. Please also use the chat feature to submit your questions as they come up. We'll answer them during each question and answer period. In this training, you'll hear us use words to describe the people that receive home and community-based services. We sometimes use consumer, and other times we'll use participant. We'll also talk about people that provide services to consumers and participants. We might call those people workers, employees, PCAs, or caregivers. First, we'll show you how to kick off the invitation email for a user's new FMS1 account. From the index, you'll want to search for the person that you want to create an account for. Then, you can click the Edit button next to the user's name. Below the person's information, you'll see a series of checkboxes. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's more than one. You just need to check off the box next to the apps you want to grant that person access to. Then, you'll click the Update button below the checkboxes. That will kick off the invitation email to use the apps.
Alrighty. Any questions in just the initial part of that for user role creation? I see one in the chat. Who's responsible for doing that? Case managers or clients. So that is going to be on the behalf of case managers. So clients will not have access to the enrollment module, the screen that you see in that short clip. And for the initial rollout, other Annkissam folks may be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, but for the initial rollout, I believe that we will be working on a script to have that done kind of, for the large group of individuals so that, it's not on case managers to go through and click every checkbox one by one. You'll receive the email just
I'm
after.
sorry.
Oh,
Hi. Hey,
hi.
Katie, can you confirm that? Is that true, or is Morning Sun supposed to do the profiles for the caregivers?
ADRS, the only thing that we send to the system is client information. Morning Sun would have to send any information about the workers and the employers. And then I added a question is, where is that screen? Is there a website we go to? How do we?
There is, yes. It's the Annkissam enrollment module. We'll have that link for you. It will be part of your overall system.
And Abe, can I just confirm? I'm not sure if you're the person that needs to confirm this for the group, but for the initial transition, it's supposed to be a one-time load with all of the current caregivers' information, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And to answer the question, when should we expect to receive the email? Those emails will go out to caregivers as soon as that one-time script, as you mentioned, Monica, is sent. And so we'll be coordinating with Morning Sun on the timing of that. And as soon as that is executed, those emails will begin to go out to folks.
Okay, and if we add, because we are constantly adding clients and workers and so forth, that is when I guess Morning Sun would have to go to the website that you just said, and they would add the information about the new worker and all of that.
Exactly. So as a new individual comes on, and it's not, a huge group of folks all at once, as an individual comes on, you could go through the process outlined in that bit of the video to very easily, as you're onboarding somebody, make sure that that email is sent out to them.
Okay, and that email will include their IDs and all that.
I believe so. I'll loop back with the team to make sure on all the information that will be included in that email. I know that it will include everything necessary for the EVVIE mobile app side. to those folks. And TVV sign up may require an additional communication for IDs.
Okay, and just so everyone's not confused, when he says TVV, that is IVR.
Yes, apologies. I'll use the IVR terminology going forward. Thank you, Katie. And for caregivers that do not have email addresses, if they wish to use the mobile app solution, they will have to create one. And we have some resources that can help folks do that through Gmail, Yahoo, the typical easy to sign up for email solutions. And for those folks that do not wish to use the mobile app and are going through IVR, the email address will not be a requirement so long as case managers have a way to communicate IDs and information to those folks. You're sorry, I can't talk. You're very welcome. All right, barring any more questions, I will click play again and we can move on to the next little section here.
Let's begin with learning how to set up your FMS One account. Everyone using EVVIE or the EVVIE portal needs to have an FMS One account in order to access the sites. Your FMS provider will create the account. Then you'll receive an invitation email alerting you that your account has been created, and it will have instructions for completing the setup. You'll need to click a link in the invitation email, and that will bring you to the FMS One sign-in page. You need to click the green Sign Up button. That will open the sign-up form, which will already be filled out with your name and email address. You just need to select a password and type it in both the password and the password confirmation fields. Then you can click the Sign Up button at the end of the form. Then you will see the confirmation page, and you've finished signing up. At the bottom of that confirmation is a link to bring you back to the sign-in page. You should click that link and try to sign in. Now is also a good time to create a bookmark for the sign-in page so you always have it handy. To sign in, just click the Sign In with FMS One button, then fill out your email and password, and then click the blue Login button. Clicking on the EVVIE icon will bring you right to the EVVIE portal. You're good to go. Here's a quick tip. In case you forget your password, you don't have to call someone to help reset it. On the sign-in page, there's a link below the sign-in button that says, "Forgot your password?" Just click that, type in your email address, and click the Send Me Reset Password Instructions button. And you'll get a reset email sent to your inbox. Check your junk email folder if you don't see it after a few minutes. Those links are good for 24 hours after you receive it.
Alrighty, so that is a little bit more in-depth, the sign-up process for those folks with email addresses. And yes, absolutely, Katie. So can you please explain to everyone the difference between the EVVIE portal and the EVVIE app? So the EVVIE app, a mobile app on your smartphone or tablet device that will be used, it's basically the time clock. It's the EVVIE compliant time clock that you will use to clock in at the beginning of your shift, select shift field information, service codes, etc., and then clock out at the end of your shift. From the EVVIE app, that information, that shift information, is sent to the EVVIE portal website, where folks will be able to log in to, as you laid out earlier, edit time if necessary, and approve time to get it ready for payroll processing. Any other questions about the, oh, excellent, already got one. Is there a way to extend that beyond 24 hours on the initial login setup? There is not. However, on the part of case managers, there is a way to resend that information. So in the case that an individual is unable to make that confirmation happen, get to that within 24 hours, there is a way to resend that info and get them a fresh email pretty quickly. And do the workers and employers have to have email addresses to log onto the portal? Yes, they do. So for those IVR users without email addresses, We are working on functionality to make sure that they have a way to perform their approvals over the IVR system. It's not currently ready, but it will be ready in March. So before that 4/4 cutoff, when the system must be used. So the ability to adjust time is only for the employer. So both parties can adjust time in the portal. However, the system is all about the relationship between the individuals. So either party can adjust the time. However, both parties must approve that adjustment. So if if a worker adjusts the time, then that has to go, that has to be seen by the other individual to make sure that, oh yes, you made this adjustment. That is actually more accurate to the time worked. So, I approve, I'll sign off on that change as well. Can the employer and employee use the same email address? No, unfortunately, they cannot. They'll have to have unique email addresses to be able to log in. And will there be a notification sent to the employer at the time of adjustment? Yes, there will. There will be email notifications for adjustments, and they will be sent to basically the parties that did not make the adjustment. So if a worker makes the adjustment, then the employer will get it. If an employer makes an adjustment, then the worker will receive a notification. Any other questions before we move on to the next section? Jennifer, is that notification via email or a messaging module within the system? Those notifications will be via email. Alrighty, I'm not seeing any more come in, so I'm going to hit play and we will go into the next section of the video here.
Now we'll review the basics of using the EVVIE mobile app, including getting started with the app, logging into EVVIE, how to record your shifts or visits, offline shift submission, and some basic troubleshooting within the app. A quick note, workers use the EVVIE mobile app, participants and representatives do not. You will need an FMS1 username and password to use the EVVIE app. Android users should download the EVVIE app from Google Play. iPhone and iPad users should download the EVVIE app from the App Store. After installing the app on your mobile device or tablet, locate the app and click the icon to launch it. The first time you use the EVVIE mobile app, you will be asked to share your location. Click Allow while using app. EVVIE will log your location at the start and end of your shift. It is not tracking your location during shifts. These locations are part of the information that must be collected to verify your shifts with EVVIE. After you allow EVVIE to use your location, click the blue FMS1 button to sign in. You will be redirected to FMS1 to sign in. If prompted, click Continue. You will now sign into FMS1 using your email and password that you set up earlier. Click Log In. The first time you use the app, you will be asked to authorize it. Click the green Authorize button. The EVVIE mobile app is now set up, and you are ready to start logging your shifts. The first screen you see once you've logged in and selected the FI is a list of the participants you work for. Many of you will have only one person listed. Some of you may work for 2 or more different people. To start a shift, click the checkbox next to the participant you want to log a shift for, then click Start Shift. You will need to click Yes in the pop-up to confirm the selected participant is accurate. The shift has now begun and EVVIE is tracking the time. If you accidentally start recording a shift, you can click the Cancel button in the top left corner. No EVVIE data will be tracked or saved. You will need to fill out the fields on the shift tracking page at some point before completing the shift. The fields include information like start and end location, service code, notes, and goals. The fields on the shift tracking page are unique for each FI, so the fields shown here may be slightly different for your program. You can update these fields at any point during the shift, but must do so before ending the shift. At the end of your shift, click End Shift in the top right corner to finalize and submit a completed shift. After clicking End Shift, you'll need to confirm that you want to end the shift, and you will have to select one of three options: End in Complete Shift, End in Start New Shift, or Cancel. Selecting Cancel here will return you to the shift. If you are not connected to the internet, the shift will be stored in the account page until you have connected to the internet again. Instructions for submitting these stored shifts will be covered in the next portion of this video. If you are connected to the internet at the end of the shift will be automatically sent to the EVVIE portal website within the next 30 to 60 seconds. If you are not connected to the internet when you end a shift, it will not be sent automatically. Instead, all of the shifts that could not be sent will be stored in the mobile app. You will need to connect to the internet and complete these steps to submit the shifts to the EVVIE portal. After starting up the app, from the Participant Select screen, access your account screen by clicking the person icon in the upper right corner. Once on the account screen, you will be able to see the number of shifts that are waiting to be transmitted. If any visits are waiting to be transmitted, click the blue Upload button. Typically, any pending shifts will automatically transmit as soon as an internet connection is available and the app is opened. You should see a message stating that your shift has been saved successfully. You will also notice a link to the EVVIE portal website on your account page, which you can click for easy access. If you've forgotten your FMS1 password, it is easy to reset. Click on the FMS1 button as if you were signing into the app. Below the username and password fields, there is a link for Forgot Your Password. Just click that link, enter your email address, and click Send Me Reset Password Instructions. You will get an email in a few minutes with a link to reset the password. We'll take a break now so you can ask questions.
Alrighty, so some moving pieces there, showing you the ins and outs of the mobile app side of things. So we'll take a pause and we'll ask questions now. So in the chat, when will the FMS link be sent to caregivers? So that will be sent as soon as the initial portion of the video, the user setup, is complete, which will be done via a script all at once for the initial group of users. Can be done one by one using the checkboxes that we saw earlier. And we'll be coordinating with Morning Sun on the timing of the initial that script, the initial sending to caregivers for this first big batch of folks. Will the password on the portal or app expire? So that's a great question. That can be configured, I believe, in coordination with our FMS1 team. I believe that the expiration dates vary depending on the FI. So that is something that we can coordinate about. I believe by default, they do not expire, but we do have some folks that we work with who have expiration after, 60 days, for example. FI Morning Sun in this instance. Yes, thank you, Katie. And when will Morning Sun update the application packet to reflect new portal information? Do you have info on that, Katie, or is that something that we can look into and get back to you, Tamika?
Exactly. Wait, are you talking about the worker packet and the employer packet?
He's talking about the initial large dump from old system to new.
That I'm not sure. So I will write that question down, or if you don't mind, will you email it to me? And then I will, and tell me exactly, if you're talking about the training packet, what exactly might need to be updated, and we will figure that out.
Alrighty, any more questions before we move on to the next piece of the video? There we are. As the employee, I will check in and out on the app, and my husband as the employer will approve my visit time on the employer app. Yes, the employer will approve the visit time on the EVVIE portal website. So you as the employee will check in and out on the app, and then your husband in this instance would go on to the EVVIE portal website and approve that visit time. And we'll have a later portion of the video show exactly how that process goes.
And sorry to interrupt, but this is Katie. I do want to clarify one thing. That is another big difference with this system and the one you're used to, is that the employer can attest a claim or a clock in and out on the app, the actual app. And again, just to reiterate, you can't do that with this system. You clock in and out on the app, but the employer can only confirm the claim on an actual website or using the IVR option, the phone option.
Yes, thank you, Katie.
Say that again, please. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Currently, with the app you guys use, if you're using the app, you know, the worker clocks in and out, and then the employer can attest right there on the app. With this new system, that's not possible. The only thing that you do on the app is the worker clocks in and out. To actually approve the claim, the worker and employer has to go to the website to approve the claim. Or the other option is using the telephone, the IVR option. The claims can be approved that way as well. We're still working on setting that up for you to be able to do that on the phone, but that is going to be an option.
So we have a question. When does this actually start? Katie, can you speak to that?
We go live on February 14th, but as I stated at the very beginning, we expect you guys to start using this, to go ahead and try to use it. And we'll be monitoring it to see how well you're doing, who needs additional training and so forth. But Medicaid has given us approval to pay the workers off of paper timesheets until April 4th. But after April 4th, all worker payments will come from information out of the system. So no more paper timesheets. So we really need you guys to try and practice using the system from now until April 4th, or from February 14th until April 4th.
We have a question from Brenda. So this is after every shift or just for changes? So this approval that will need to be done on the website will be for every shift, but changes are also able to be made on the website. We have a question from Maria. So the worker has to approve the claim online also. At the moment, yes. The claim must be approved by the worker online as well after app submission. But that is something that we're taking a look at, as we know that that's a potential pain point for folks. We have a question. Does that mean that the employer can't confirm the worker's hours on the app? Yes, that's correct. The employer must confirm hours on the website.
And just to add to what they're saying, this is Monica with Medicaid. We are working with HHA and the Annkissam team to resolve some of these concerns post go live. So this is the process that you would have to do in the interim.
Yes, thank you, Monica. And from Gina, when do we stop using Authenticare app? Katie, is that the 2/14 date as well?
Actually, it will, Monica, correct me if I'm wrong, but they can use it through the 13th.
You're correct. It stops the 13th at midnight. So we're currently working with FiveServe, and you should start seeing some message banners coming across the app, as well a recording with the IVR starting next week.
And I see a bunch of questions about timesheets. I will get with Morning Sun to make sure I get everyone the correct timesheet, but we will be using timesheets again. The ones that they used to in the past that they used, we will start using those again from now until April 4th. So I will get those, make sure I get the correct one from Morning Sun, get that out to all the case managers, and they can get that to the clients next week.
And a question, so we have to use the app and timesheets? Yes, for the interim until that April 4th date when the timesheets will no longer be used as the source of truth. Both the app and timesheets will be required. As Katie had laid out, a bit of a initial period just to get folks used to the app, to identify difficulties, and to make sure with the use of both the app and timesheets that you're learning the system, but we're also verifying with the timesheets that everything is as it should be. Having to confirm workers' hours through a website instead of the app is going to take more time, which is something that we don't have because we care for disabled family members every day already. It should be quick and easy if you ask me. That is great feedback, Tracy, and I definitely see where you're coming from there. And that's something that we are working on in that interim time to try to address those concerns as best we can. But I definitely see where you're coming from, and I appreciate you putting that out there because, yeah, as we can see from the chat, you know, some agreement here. Definitely understand where that's coming from.
And we understand about a lot of this process. Change is hard. So, you know, we do understand that, but the timesheets are necessary because we need, at least for this small amount of time, because the more important thing is, yes, it's a pain to do both, but we need to make sure that workers are being paid correctly. And you know, when there's change, when there's transition, that means there's normally lots of mistakes, especially. So we need to, while we're learning, still have a way for the workers to get paid appropriately.
Right. And this is Monica. I just want to also echo what Katie and Abe is saying. The reason why we have to use the system come go live is in order to be compliant to continue to receive the federal funds for the programs to continue to operate. And then the paper timesheets is our lessons learned just to make sure that the caregivers get paid. We certainly don't want any delay in that process at all. So the collective FMSA entities, Medicaid, the SAIL program, this is just the best option to ensure that you continue to get paid for the services provided.
And as we go through, we will do our very best to make this transition as easy as possible. So, you know, just you will have Morning Sun, your case manager, and myself available, as well as the EVVIE team, to help smooth this transition. So just be aware that we are here to support you and hopefully make this transition as easy as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. And I will begin the next portion of the video now.
And now we'll review the basics of logging in, viewing, and approving shifts in the EVVIE portal. To log into EVVIE portal, you should follow the link provided in your welcome email. That link should bring you to a web page that looks like one of these two screens. You'll need to click the blue Login with FMS1 button or the Login with FMS1 link located near the bottom of the form. Enter your email address and password, then click Login. If you don't know your password or you have forgotten it, select Forgot Your Password and follow the on-screen instructions. After you're logged in, click the large letter E icon to log into EVVIE portal. If you're redirected to a page that looks like this, just click the link to refresh your login and you'll be brought to the EVVIE portal home screen. When you arrive on the home screen, select View All Shifts. As a worker, you will see all the shifts you have worked. If you're a participant or designee, you'll see all the shifts your workers have completed with you, or the person you are a designee for. In the middle of the screen, you'll see a series of options that will allow you to filter the shifts. You can use the drop-down box to select a person to filter by. You can filter by a date range, just click in the box, and then select a date using the calendar. You can also filter shifts by status. To view any shift, just click the View Shift button next to the shift you want to view. Once the shift has been opened, you will see detailed information about the shift, including the 2 people associated with the shift, the length of the shift in hours and minutes, and the service code. Other information about the shift could include goals, notes, ADLs, and the start and end location for the shift. These additional details are different for every program, so your view of this page may look a little different from this sample. Below the shift details is a table that tracks the status of a shift over time and shows who has completed actions to change the shift status. All shifts begin in a status of submitted. At the bottom of the screen, a series of color-coded buttons are available. Approve shift in green, propose adjustments to shift in gray, propose denial of shift in red, and return to view all shifts in blue. The worker and participant or designee associated with each shift will need to approve the shift before it can be submitted to payroll for payment. Once the worker completes their shift in the EVVIE mobile app, as demonstrated in the previous video, both parties will receive an email notification that the visit was successfully transmitted to EVVIE portal. Now is a good time to pause for questions.
Alrighty, do we have any questions about the processes that we just looked at in the website, the EVVIE portal? Alrighty, then, does worker have to attest the shift first? So that can go in either order at the moment. That is one of the adjustments that Monica speaks to that we are taking a look at, how we can streamline this process, make it a little smoother for folks. But at the moment, in the current iteration, either the worker or the employer can log on and attest the shift first, and then the other party will log on to complete their attestation as well. Will there be a way to approve all if the times are correct? Another great question. That is something that we're working on as well. Right now, administrators, so case managers, have access to test a feature that would allow batches of shifts to be approved. So that approve all that you're mentioning, and we're going to get that out to end users, so workers and employers shortly. So that is another adjustment that will not be ready by 214, but is something that we're working on actively because we want to be able to give folks that ability to approve all and save the clicks that they're taking and the time.
Well, so I want to interrupt here 1 minute just to make sure all the case managers are on this call, though. You guys are not to approve any shifts. You may have the ability right now to test that function, but that is not, you should not be approving any shifts. That's only for the worker and employer.
Yes, no, that is for our test environments only. So not something that we'll actively be making use of. So I appreciate that correction. Thank you. Do we do timesheets for each pay period beginning 213 along with signing into EVVIE? I believe that is a yes, Brenda. Correct, Katie?
Yes, starting after 213, start filling out timesheets along with doing your clock in and out on the app or the IVR option.
From Ashley, do worker and employer both have to attest the shift for it to be transmitted through? Yes, they do. That is one of the adjustments that we're looking at, not to get rid of that two-side attestation, because we feel it is important for both parties to make sure that they are heard. But we are looking at how the worker can attest through the application or through the IVR system if they choose to use the IVR. So then only the employer attestation will be required for transmission at the end. Do shifts have to be approved daily? No, they do not. The shifts can be approved at the cadence that you're comfortable with, the timing that you're comfortable with. Any shifts that are not approved will not be transmitted if they're not approved in a timely fashion before the end of the pay period. But the ability to approve those shifts is not closed after 24 hours, for example, like some of the emails that we were speaking about. You can go on at the end of the week and you can approve multiple shifts, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Is there a link that the employer will have to verify the shift? Do they go through the case manager or through the app? So the employer will be able to go on to the website here. As we had mentioned earlier in the video, our recommendation is once the sign-up process is complete, that you can put a bookmark in your web browser so that you have the link to the website available to you at any time. And then you can go into that website and you can make your necessary verifications whenever. There is also a link within the app in the person icon, the account screen that we saw in the app earlier, where an individual, a worker, can go into the website right from the app. And if that worker is with the employer, in the same room, the employer could log in through the app link that way as well. What is the timeline for approval? How much time between the end of the pay period to submission? So as soon as the pay period is over, we have twice daily pushes to submit those approved shifts. So fairly soon after the end of the pay period, I believe the early morning after the pay period is over, shifts will begin to move over. And then these twice daily pushes, if, for example, I approved, I made my attestation a few days late for a shift that was in a pay period that has since been completed, there would be twice daily pushes that would identify, this belongs in an old period, this should be pushed through as soon as possible. And then those shifts that are attested to and verified a little late after the end of a pay period will go through as soon as they're attested. And Katie answered this in the chat, but we had a question: how long will we have to submit paper timesheets? And that will be through April 4th.
The first person to review and approve the shift in EVVIE portal will select the green Approve Shift button at the bottom of the shift's view page. This first approver could be the worker, the participant, or a designee. To approve a shift, from the view page, click the green Approve button near the bottom of the screen. On the next screen, there are two optional fields, one for your phone number and one for comments. Typically, you will not need to complete these fields when approving a shift, unless you've been instructed to do so by your FI or FMS. At the bottom of the screen, you will notice two gray buttons. One is Awaiting Confirmation, one is Cancel. Hitting Cancel will return you to the shift's view page without approving. To complete the approval of a shift, click the checkbox to confirm and certify your shift. The Awaiting Confirmation button will change to a green Submit Approval button. Click that button. You should see a message that the shift has been successfully updated. The other person associated with the shift will now get an email letting them know that the shift is ready for their approval. This email contains a link to bring them directly to the shift's view page after they've logged in. When viewing the shift, the second approver will have three options to choose from: Propose Adjustments to Shift in gray, Lock as Approved in green, and View All Shifts in blue. To complete the approval process, click Lock as Approved. Again, the optional phone number and comments field are available. The user will need to click the checkbox to turn the Awaiting Confirmation button to a green Lock as Approved button. After clicking Lock as Approved, the shift can no longer be changed or edited and will be sent to payroll for processing at the end of your pay period. If you realize you've accidentally locked a shift, you will need to contact your FI or FMS provider for assistance with canceling or editing that shift. Let's pause here for some questions and answers.
Alrighty, so that got into a little bit more detail about the attestation process within the EVVIE portal website. Are there any questions from that portion of the video?
I just want to clarify again that the FI or FMS that they're mentioning in the video, that's Morning Sun.
Thank you, Katie. Yes. All right, then I will move on to the next section here.
We'll now look at denying and adjusting shifts in the EVVIE portal. There may be a need to deny a shift if a shift was created in error. For example, if a worker accidentally begins a visit for the incorrect participant and completes it instead of canceling the visit. To deny a visit, you will follow the same steps to open the shift in EVVIE portal as if you were going to approve it, by either logging into the EVVIE portal and clicking on the View Shift button, or by following the link in the Shift notification email. At the bottom of the View Shift screen, you'll click the red button, Propose Denial of Shift. On the next screen, you'll be required to select a denial code to explain why the visit is being denied. You may enter a comment, which will be visible to all associated users. Click the checkbox to certify the shift, then click Submit Denial. The shift is now in a state of denied. By viewing the shift's history, you can see this and the person that denied the shift. The other party will now receive an email about the denied shift. They will need to log in to review the shift. Upon review, that person has the option to either challenge the denial or lock as denied. If you choose lock as denied, the denial is finalized and the shift can no longer be approved or edited. It will not be processed for payment. Choose challenge denial if you do not believe the shift should be denied. You'll be able to add a comment regarding why the shift is accurate and why it should be paid. The participant and the worker will have the option to go back and forth twice with denial challenges before they will need to make a final choice to lock the visit as a denial or not. We'll take a break now so you can ask questions.
All right. Are there any questions about the denial process as outlined in that portion of the video, or challenges? I think that both are likely to be rare scenarios. I wanted to call that out, but we do have those as an offering just to make sure that both parties sign off on the accuracy of the shift worked, and that if there is an inaccurate entry, I accidentally let my app run for too long, or I create a shift that's only a minute long because I just hit the wrong button. Folks do have the ability to go into the portal and take a look at those and say, this isn't right, this shouldn't go through, and they can deny that so that they don't have to worry about it. Alrighty, I will hit play and we can proceed into the next section.
There could be a few reasons why you may need to adjust a visit. In one example, the worker arrives at their shift but cannot clock in right away because the battery in their mobile device is dead. They would need to clock in late once their phone is charged, and their start time would need to be manually adjusted in EVVIE portal. Other reasons for edits could be that the incorrect service code was selected, or a correction to the shift notes. You will want to minimize edits unless absolutely needed. Some states track the volume of edits per user, and states have discussed that certain corrective actions could be taken for users who have a high volume of edits on EVVIE tracked shifts. If you need to adjust a visit, you will follow the same steps to open the shift in EVVIE portal as if you were going to approve or deny it, by either logging into the EVVIE portal and clicking on the View Shift button, or by following the link in a shift notification email. Once you've opened the shift, you'll click on the gray button, Propose Adjustments to Shift. On the next screen, select both an exception code and a reason code. The codes explain why the exception occurred. More than one reason could apply to an adjusted shift, but you can only select one. Choose the reason that best matches your reason. In the example mentioned earlier, where a worker's phone needed to be recharged, the exception is missed clock in and clock out, and the reason is mobile device battery died. To adjust the start or end time of a visit, click on the time field, then adjust the time as needed. On a laptop or desktop computer, you can click the hour and/or minutes, and then type in the correct hour, or use the arrow buttons to move up and down. If you need to switch between AM and PM, just click it to switch between the two. If you're viewing the portal from a mobile device, it is a similar process, but scrolling to select the hours and minutes may look a little different when editing time. Once you've adjusted the time, if no other changes are needed, you can scroll to the bottom of the page where the usual phone number, comments, and checkbox are. Whenever you adjust a shift, it is common to put more detail in the comments box about why the edit needed to be made. Some programs may require that you enter comments. Please keep in mind that these comments will be viewable by anyone that can approve the shifts, and that the FI or FMS provider will also be able to see the comments. Users are allowed to go back and forth with adjustments and comments twice before they'll be required to either make a final locked approval or deny the visit. Submitting the changes here will move the shift into an approved state. Each time a visit is edited, an email will be sent to the other party alerting them that the visit is waiting their approval. The user reviewing the adjusted shift will be presented with the usual 3 options: to approve, adjust, or deny the visit. Depending on the choice made, that user will follow the steps explained in this video or earlier videos to finalize the shift. Now we'll review creating manual shifts in the EVVIE portal. Please note, manually entered visits are not EVV compliant. You'll want to avoid creating manual visits unless absolutely needed. If your FI or FMS provider has requested that you track sick time or vacation time, which do not require EVV compliant tracking, you will use these same steps to record those shifts. After logging in, click on the blue button at the top of the EVVIE portal home screen, Create New Shift. You will need to fill out the fields on this screen. Depending on your role and the state you work in, the order of the fields may be slightly different. In this example, we'll look at a manual shift created by the worker. Select both an exception code and a reason code. Choose the best option available for your situation. You can also add additional information in the comments at the end of the form to better explain it. Click on the Start Date and Time field to select the date and time of the shift. The time can be adjusted by either clicking the hour or minute and typing in the time, or using the arrow keys to scroll through the time. Click AM or PM to switch between the two. You must select a time zone for each shift entered. This should be the time zone where you worked, or the time zone where you live if you are recording sick or vacation time. Select the participant associated with the shift in the participant dropdown, and in a few seconds, a consumer enrollment dropdown will appear. Select the enrollment. Select a service code and a consumer response if required. Mark the checkbox for any goals or ADLs worked on during a shift. Add notes about the shift in the Notes section. This is where you'd record information about what the participant and worker did during the shift. This is not where you should enter comments about why the shift is being recorded manually. Select a start and end location from the dropdowns. And finally, you'll reach the normal phone, comment, and checkbox field we've seen throughout these tutorials. In this comments box, you should provide further information about why the shift was recorded manually, rather than in the EVV compliant method. Do not record notes about the activities you worked on during the shift in this box. Click the checkbox to certify, and click the Create Shift button. An email will now be sent to all parties alerting them that the shift has been manually created. The visit will begin in the status of submitted and is ready to be approved, adjusted, or denied by the participant, following all the same processes that we have explained in the previous videos in this series for approving, denying, and adjusting shifts. Let's pause here for questions.
Alrighty, so questions on that portion. Why isn't the time zone tied to the participant's location? So for app shifts and compliant shifts, the time zone will be tied to the participant's location. It will come right from your phone's location, or whether that be your smartphone or if you're working in the IVR system. It'll come from that information. But for manual shifts, you'll have the opportunity to edit that just as with other fields. What information goes in the consumer enrollment field? So that comes out of our enrollment module. So that is one of our interconnected systems. The enrollment module is where those checkboxes were to update with the roles that we saw in the very beginning of the video. The consumer enrollment will be populated by that information. So case managers will be able to see it in our other module, and end users like workers and employers should not have to worry about that too much. It'll pop up right for them. There is a field after the time zone. I believe that was the date and time. Or yes, the consumer. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Katie. Why would the time zone need to be edited? It seems like this is an area that will cause a lot of issues. We're just providing the option in case, if an individual is providing a service on a vacation to a different part of the country, or if they do happen into another time zone, but that is set as a default value. So as long as a user doesn't feel the need to edit that and doesn't, they should not have to click it. It will be set as a default value to their time zone. We currently have flexibility in time we clock in and out. Will we now have to clock in and out at the same time for every shift? It's a great question. So no, we want to maintain that flexibility. EVVIE does not have scheduled times, things like that. When you clock in and out is up to you. Do they have to choose one or the other, IVR or app, or use both depending what is going on, like problems with Wi-Fi? Great question. So individuals can use one or the other. They will just have to be set up with ID information on the IVR side if they choose to be an IVR user. But individuals will be able to use both if that is their preference. If my employer decides to go on a vacation and I go with them to take care of them, and it's still in the state of Alabama, can we still use this? I believe the answer to that is yes. Katie, you may have additional information. Yes, okay.
As long as on this program, as long as the service takes place within the state, you're fine.
Okay.
If they go to Florida, like down to Panama City or something like that, you cannot. It has to be in the state of Alabama.
Okay, great. So I will amend my previous answer about time zones. If you do go on vacation to a different time zone, very likely that you're not going to be able to use that in the program, but as long as it's in the state of Alabama. And so I think that time zone default on manual shifts will be helpful. Folks don't have to touch that. And the time zone will come in from their mobile device or from their IVR device for compliant shifts. Can a worker clock in on the mobile app and clock out on the IVR? That is not a functionality that we support at this time. A worker will be able to clock in and out on the mobile app, and then the employer will be able to approve that time in the IVR when we have that functionality ready for 4.4. But at this time, the mobile app doesn't treat clock ins and clock outs as separate. It's an active time clock where the clock in and clock out has to happen both in the mobile app. And Katie, can you speak to Raven and Lisa's questions?
Well, she's asking, we do have parts of the state that are on Eastern time zone. So are you saying that the app, they will know that?
The app will know that, yes, based on your device's location.
And then the next question, so if we are out of state for vacation, we can't work and lose our hours. That's correct. All services have to be provided within the state of Alabama.
Here is some information on administrative features of the EVVIE portal web app. Batch actions can save time and effort if you need to perform a large push of shifts from the EVVIE portal to the bit module of FMS Engine. In most implementations, users are approving and locking shifts themselves. But if the need arises for you to complete this process for a user or a group of users, or if your state or program requires an administrative approval process, we have a quick way to get the shifts approved and locked. From the Shifts index in EVVIE portal, you can filter the shift list by using one or more of the usual options: participant name, PCA name, a time or date range, and/or the shift status. In this example, I'm selecting all shifts from a specific participant. After selecting and applying the filter, you can click the Batch Approve or Batch Lock Approve buttons near the top of the index, depending on which action you want to take. I will complete a batch approval in this example. Near the top of the page, I can enter comments that will be attached to each shift that I'm about to approve. This is an optional step, but it may be helpful for record keeping to include information here. If you want to apply the approval to all the shifts you have filtered to, click the All Toggle switch just below the comments box. If you want to approve selected shifts only, click the toggle switches next to each shift you wish to approve. After selecting all or some of the shifts, scroll to the bottom of the page and click the checkbox to certify the shifts. Then click the green button to submit the approvals. Now that the shifts are approved, you can repeat that process to put all approved shifts in a state of approval locked. You can view a shift status with the aggregator in the EVVIE portal. You can view an index of aggregator records. You can also delete aggregator records. However, this only deletes information in the EVVIE portal. It does not send a message to the aggregator to delete the record from their system. If you want to review an aggregator record in the context of a shift, from the shift index, select the View Shift button next to the shift you want to view. Scroll to the bottom of the shifts page to find the header for the aggregator records. If an aggregator record exists for the shift, you'll see it in the index. Click on the View Aggregator Record button. At the top of the page, you will see information about the shift, including the status of the shift with the aggregator. If the shift has a failed status, you may see an error message explaining why the shift failed in the aggregator. The process to resolve a shift error will vary state to state or program to program. Refer to your state's aggregator for more information. You can also view an index of aggregator records. From any screen in the EVVIE portal web app, hover over the EVVIE portal button at the top left of the screen. This is the fastest way to navigate between sections of the portal. Click on Aggregator Records in the drop-down menu. This will display the aggregator record index. You can click the View Aggregator Record button to view details about the record. Banners are an easy way for administrative users to post a notice that will be visible to all users in the EVVIE portal website. From any screen in the EVVIE portal, hover over the EVVIE portal button at the top left of the screen. Click on Banners in the drop-down. To create a new banner, click the blue Create a New Banner button. On the next page, type your message into the content box. If you would like to display the banner for system users, click the Active button. Once you've finished, click Create Banner. The banner is now visible to all EVVIE portal users. If you would like to activate or deactivate a banner, you can click the button on the left-hand side of the screen to turn off any active banners and turn on an inactive banner. Only one banner can be active at a time, so if you turn on one banner while another is already active, the active banner will be deactivated so the new one can be displayed. To edit an existing banner, on the banner list page, click the View Banner button next to the banner you'd like to edit. Click the Edit button, and then make changes to the banner as desired. Once finished, click the Update Banner button to save the change. Let's pause here for some questions and answers.
Hey, Abe, I just wanted to say something real quick. I don't
Yes.
think this is anything you guys need to worry about. Monica, correct me if I'm wrong, but all you guys need to learn from this, how to clock in and out, how to make changes rarely in a special circumstance because those are tracked, and how to approve shifts. I think that last video pertained more to maybe traditional personal care, which is if you're getting services from an agency like Addis or somewhere.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you, Katie and Monica. Yes, so that is the first portion of that section, the batch approval. Obviously, as we had spoken about earlier, admins will not be expected to make use of that, but that is an example of that feature that will be rolling out to end users so that folks can go through and approve multiple shifts at one time. So I wanted to call that out just so you had that visual of what that will look like when we have that ready for workers and employers. We had a question from earlier from Gina. Most of my hours are 5-hour shifts, but can we still do an 8-hour shift as long as we don't go over our 25 hours in a week? Can you speak to that, Katie?
Yes, I'm trying to decide how detailed to get here, but yes, you can do an 8-hour shift. The only rule that we have is that you cannot go into overtime, which would be 40 hours in a week. But let me clarify here. If your employer does not have savings, does not have money in their savings, you cannot work over whatever is specified in your budget, which in your case sounds like it's 25 hours a week. So we're not monitoring how many hours in a day you work. You can only work 25 hours in the week unless your client needs additional hours and has money in his savings account that we can pay you for those additional hours. And the only rule past that is you cannot do overtime, which overtime is 40 hours in a week. And Gina, if you're still confused about that, you're welcome to contact me. I'm not sure who your case manager is, but they can put you in contact with me and I can go in more detail about that with you.
We have a question from Justin. So there will certainly be errors with submitted shifts to the aggregator. After a completed shift is sent to the aggregator, can that shift be edited in EVVIE and resubmitted? So approval locked shifts, which will be the shifts that are sent to the aggregator, will not be able to be edited by employers or workers. So you'll have to contact your case manager to make changes to shifts that have been submitted to the aggregator. If there are errors arising from how that shift was completed that cause aggregator issues, then you'll be able to work with them and with us to resolve that. Generally, aggregator errors that we have seen in the past can be resolved in different modules. So for example, the enrollment module, if a piece of information that the aggregator needs is missing from an individual's record, there are times when those can be resolved and it's not a failure on behalf of the individual shift, but it's just a simple update or edit needs to be made to the person's record in their enrollment.
So, hey, this is Monica. How exactly does that happen? Because once it's sent to the aggregator and it passes all of the edits, the only two portals left would be the FMS portal and the payer portal. So that question is actually from Justin, who's the FMS, who's with our FMS vendor.
So the aggregator records failures that I've seen in the past have been resolved in our enrollment space, which is the site that we saw at the very beginning of the video where the checkboxes were clicked to add an individual's EVVIE role. So I have seen, it depends on the state, but a simple one, if Medicaid ID information is missing or incorrect in an individual's record in enrollment, then that can just be changed in enrollment to the correct value, updated, and then that aggregator record in EVVIE can be synced properly without a change needing to be made, without an edit needing to be made to the individual shift. It's just an edit at the enrollment level.
Okay, if Katie, I'm gonna take an action item too. We would probably just want to see that demo with the FMS vendor.
Sure.
Just to make sure we understand that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, Monica. So if a client is only approved for 15 hours a week, they can log or work their 15 hours in one day. Please clarify. Is that correct, Katie?
Yeah, they would have to justify why they needed to work over 8 hours in a day. That isn't to say they couldn't do 15 hours, but you'd probably have to get state office approval for them to go over 8, because we would need to justify why somebody needed all 15 hours in one day. I can't think of an instance in our program where that would be necessary. But the main rule of thumb is we do not pay overtime, and overtime only starts once they do that over 40 hours in a week.
Got it. Thank you, Katie. Alrighty, then I will click play on our next section.
Now we'll review IVR or TVV. TVV is sometimes used instead of EVV or electronic visit verification. With TVV, you clock in and clock out of each shift with a telephone call. The TVV process is simple. When you arrive at the participant's home, you will make a phone call to the TVV system and enter a few pieces of information at the start and end of each shift you work. The phone number will be provided to you by the participant's FMS provider. In some states, this provider could be called a fiscal intermediary or a fiscal support entity. The FMS provider will also provide you with your employee ID number, the ID number of the participants you work for, and the service code IDs for the services that you provide to participants. You will be prompted by the TVV system to press 1 to clock in or 2 to clock out. You will then be asked to enter your 6-digit employee ID. You will then be asked to enter the 6-digit consumer ID. If the call is a clock in, you'll be notified that your clock in is complete. If the call is a clock out, you will be asked to enter the service code ID, and then your clock out will be completed. Let's listen to a clock in call.
Welcome to the EVVIE electronic visit verification system. Please press 1 to clock in, press 2 to clock out. Please enter your 6-digit employee ID. You have entered 004321. If this is correct, press 1. Otherwise, please press 0 to re-enter. Please enter your 6-digit consumer ID. You have entered 001234. If this is correct, press 1. Otherwise, please press 0 to re-enter. Thank you for clocking in. Please call back when you are ready to clock out. Goodbye.
To review, when starting a shift, you will need to provide your employee ID and the ID of the participant you are working for. Now we'll review a clock out call.
Welcome to the EVVIE electronic visit verification system. Please press 1 to clock in, press 2 to clock out. Please enter your 6-digit employee ID. You have entered 004321. If this is correct, press 1. Otherwise, please press 0 to re-enter. Please enter your 6-digit consumer ID. You have entered 001234. If this is correct, press 1. Otherwise, please press 0 to re-enter. Please enter your service code ID. You have entered 01. If this is correct, press 1. Otherwise, please press 0 to re-enter. Thank you for clock out. Goodbye.
To review, when ending a shift, you will need to provide your employee ID, the ID of the participant you are working for, and a service code ID for the service you provided during the shift.
All right, so we're nearing the end of our video. That is our IVR portion. We have a question in the chat. Will we still keep the same employee and consumer ID? So that is something that we are working on with our with Morning Sun to do our best to maintain the same information or as close as possible. It's my understanding that consumer IDs may be different other than 6 digits in your former solution, where in our IVR, both employee and consumer IDs will be 6 digits. But I think we'll have more information on that shortly. If I press 2 to check out and haven't checked in, will the system inform me of that? That's a great question. I'll review that with our developers, because unlike the mobile app, which treats both clock in and clock out as part of one shift, there's no separate clock in function and clock out function for the mobile app. The IVR system does treat those as unique. And so it's possible that you could create a checkout that is not linked to a check-in. But I'll review that with the team and just make sure that that validation is in place, and get some information on what the process might be like if you do inadvertently check out without an associated check-in. Is the phone number the same for this TVV as for the IVR line for Authenticare? It will not be. So it will be a change in phone number. And we will have different phone numbers depending on the language that users choose to use for IVR. So we will provide those to Morning Sun. When will those be communicated? We will have those out shortly. I believe that the development team has claimed those phone numbers, and so we will get that communication together shortly. So we have that to folks in advance of February 14th. All right, I believe that brings us to the close of this presentation, but I will run out the last few seconds of this video. I think we just have maybe if they will change over to using IVR, will the employee still have to set up the mobile app? If they will be using IVR only, they will not have to. If they may choose to use both IVR and the mobile app, then they would have to have an email address and perform the setup in the mobile app that we laid out in the video here. All right, I can stop sharing my screen here with the video. So the last portion, it had a live look at the IVR portal. So that is for administrators only. I don't believe it'll be relevant to most folks. So that's something that we may be able to follow up on later. We have an administrative portal connected to the EVVIE portal just for those admins, sort of for cases like you had laid out, Lillian. If a checkout is created but no associated check-in, or on the other hand, if a check-in is created but there's no associated checkout, we do have a portal where case managers could go in and make necessary adjustments to make sure that there's nothing kind of just floating around in the system without being turned into a shift and sent to the EVVIE portal.
Hey, Abe, I'm just gonna correct you a little bit right there, because we don't want
Sure.
case managers doing that, but
Okay. Sorry, Katie,
Morning
thank you.
Sun would go in and make those adjustments.
Got it. I appreciate the correction. Thank you, Katie. All right. Are there any other questions on any pieces of the video or anything that you want to make sure that we cover while I have your time today? When will Morning Sun receive training on that admin portal? We can connect sometime next week and we can go over that in detail. It's fairly straightforward, and we're with the data validations that we have set up in the system, there should be only minimal use of that. But I'm happy to meet well before we start to go live in this, and so we can get something on the books for next week and we can take a look at that admin portal. Yes, that is the completion of the training that we have for you today. The only outstanding portion would be for that admin portal that we will discuss with Morningside admins. So if we have no further questions, I think that we can draw it to a close, and from everyone at Annkissam, and I'm sure everyone, Katie and everyone from Morning Sun, we really appreciate your time today. I hope that was as straightforward as possible. I really appreciate all your really good questions. And we're looking forward to getting you started.
Thank you, Abe. We really appreciate you guys. I know this was short notice for everyone, so we really appreciate it. And we also, the EVVIE team has also put together for us actually written instructions to send to you guys and one-page guides that your case manager will get and can send to you as well. And then we will send you some timesheets. I will get that from Morning Sun and get that out to you as well, some timesheets to start using on the 14th. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And please, I know this is, change is hard again, so just feel free to reach out to your case manager who can get you in touch with me, and we can go through any other questions that you may have. And we said, can we start practicing with EVVIE on Monday? No, unfortunately, we'll have to wait till the 14th because we still have to get IDs and everything else out to you guys. So we're already going to be scrambling a little bit next week to do that. So we will just have to wait until the 14th. But your case manager can send you a link to these videos. So if you want to just refresh your memory next week, you're welcome to watch them again. And I will also hopefully get this link to this actual training out to you next week as well that you can watch again. All right, guys, well, have a good rest of your day, and just get in touch with us if you have additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.